Well, gentlemen, we're here to talk today about this amp supply company, lk-500zb. I've sold one of these before. It was in really good shape. Ended up getting smashed in shipping, which was a shame, but anywho, we bought this one in Puyallup, Washington here this last year in the Hamfest, and it is also in very good shape. But that doesn't mean anything. We're definitely not going to hook it up blind. Let's pop the lid and see what we got going on the inside for tubes and what the condition of this thing is. Well, pull this apart and out dropped this card. I think from CKC Laboratories Inc. Now look at all the certifications this guy carries. This last guy that was in here to work on this thing, I think he threw the card in there just in case. I'm excited because of this right here. This here and these two tuners. Now, I can't believe for the life of me if somebody actually had this apart that they didn't take the time to solder that one tuner in the way it's supposed to, but it's in there, it's working. This is the auxiliary mode, or otherwise 21 megahertz through 10 megahertz kind of thing. Wink, 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 wink. That makes me happy. I don't have to source the relay, I don't have to source the toroid, nor do I have to find the two variable capacitors like I did on the last one I worked on. This thing is in relatively good shape. Internally it's pretty clean. Somebody's gone in here and, or maybe this is stock, I don't know. I remember the other one having a little ice cube relay in it, but let's move on around here to the back. It is currently wired 220, and this is Vox, which would be auto key, and that's QSK, and then our relay mode. So this is a stock switch, which means this is an upgraded board. It's got a little vacuum relay in it, which is kind of cool. Serial number 556 is the number on this one. And it's also notated down here, serial number 556, amp supply company. This is the FCC ID number, type accepted, part 97. So it means they're happy. The FCC's happy. The serial number I'm going to have to start pointing out on all of these because of one guy, but it's all good. Let's come over here. Let's look at the amp section. They've obviously added all the appropriate jumpers to make it work on 11 and so on. 21 megahertz and 11 meters, or 10. A couple things here. We are going to have to rip this down pretty good. I got to rip this base plate off, so it means I got to take these two screws out, these two screws out. Probably going to disconnect here at our tuner because this is all hanging loose. So it means I got to back this off here, reapply the journal, the insulator, but this is why I've got to take it apart. This is loose. And that little tiny pubic hair of a wire there, that won't last. I try to ship this across the United States, that wire will end up breaking. And I want to retouch these two filament leads. But all in all, this thing's in great shape for what it is. Good up-to-date electrolytics. Key out, key in, relay, RF in, RF out, no ALC. So this thing is truly set up for high-speed CW then, with no ALC adjustment. Right on. That's kind of cool. That's a plus, I guess, if you're into listening in between your CW pulses. Okay, well, let's jump right into the crux of things. Let's go get the filament tube socket mounting box. Let's get this pulled apart. Let's get this buttoned up, and let's get this fixed real quick. And just for the record, it's got a pair of really good looking iMac 3500Zs in it. That's iMac. That's iMac. So, good tubes. Okay, let's get it ripped down. Here we are on the bottom side of things, guys. So this is our sockets, obviously. And our grids are grounded. Imagine that, because it's not an SB220. Here's our filament choke, just like an SB220. This is our input signal with our blockers. And what we're here to do is sneak a screwdriver in here and tighten down this one nut, one screw. Is it going to tighten? No. Is it stripped out? What's going on here? I'm not digging that. That is not right. I cannot get that to get tight, so. Okay, that ain't nothing but a 632. Let's go over here and let me see if I can find another screw that this will hold on to a little bit better. Okay, so I found us a little bit more of aggressive screw, and I put a little bit of blue glue on it. What I mean by blue glue is Loctite. Come on, don't pinch yourself now. There we go. There we go. That ain't never going to come loose now. All right, so we're Loctited in place. Let's slide this back in here. Sharded like a rock. Okay. Where are my fingertip extension tools? I need my hemos. Come here, hemos. All right. Throw that through there. That's all right. Don't mean to be blocking your guys' view. I apologize. Throw that through there. Put that through there. No, this is a mistake. Yes, it's most definitely a mistake. Oh no. Nut fall on floor. Oh no, what to do? Oh dear Lord, the world might stop turning now. I dropped a nut. Okay, we put the nuts and bolts and mounting hardware in this and get our grounding nut all set back up, and be snaking a screw right up in here and getting our standoff fixed and repaired. All right, well, gentlemen, plate choke is put back on, Loctited in. Our standoff has also got a brand new screw in the back that holds it in place. It's also held in with blue Loctite. The front screw is also held in with blue Loctite, and we're going to leave the anode caps off for the moment, and we're going to plug this thing in and let's give it a whirl and see what it does. I am not converting this back to 110. I feel reasonably confident that we're going to be able to turn this on and not blow sparks out of our buttholes. So let's flip it around and give it a whirl. I know for a fact the last one of these I worked on had a high voltage interlock that was down here on the edge of the cabinet, and then had a high voltage interlock up here on the top. I want to know how it made it through all its engineering phases, and the FCC looked at this design and everything, and there's not one high voltage interlock, safety interlock, anywhere on this box. It just blows my mind, but here we stand. Okay, so let's give it a quick power up and see if our tubes light up and if we get high voltage. So let's kind of slide it over here. We've got this currently set for volts, not grid. 3,000 volts. Tubes lit up. They're not full of a white acrid smoke. Now, there is a downside to this design, as we're letting our high voltage bleed off so we can go stick our meaty hands back in here and put the anode caps back on, is that the back tube will always get a little bit more air than the front tube. So the front tube will always be the one that stays hotter a little bit longer, and so the print on the tube is going to get blown off a little bit quicker. You know what I mean? But I was looking at the tubes. The pins are pristine. So we'll see. We will see. We're going to let the high voltage bleed down, and I'm going to hook up a foot pedal. We're going to hook up the ICOM to it, and let's see what we can get out of it and what works where. This is where I really wish I would have had it on a Variac. Contact. Oh yay, tubes did not arc over. Okay. So there is no low high. It is transmit or standby. That is it. Got good airflow. Let's turn on the old ICOM here. Put it in XMIT. Got nothing. Standby, nothing. Switch that to Vox. Whoa. Whoa. Did you guys see that? Let's just go over what we saw, and we're going to break it down frame by frame. We're capturing at, I think, 90 or 120 frames a second in 4K. Well, actually it's in 6K, and then I got to down resolution it to 4K to get it on YouTube for you guys to watch. This is the tube right here, and the reason I bring the frame rate up is because this whole thing took place in about 100 frames. So there's 100 frames of video that watch the plasma ball inside this tube do its thing. Now, let's just say this. There are no shorts on this tube. And let me give you a little bit more data. Let me just slide this in there. If we go back and we look at the plate ammeter, we will see that this tube was holding high voltage without a problem. Held a high voltage, and it wasn't until I turned the tube on, otherwise pulled the bias from cutoff at 115 volts or 112 volts, and brought it down to 5 volts, and turned the tube on into amplification mode, where the tube decided to flash over on the inside. And that's a plasma ball that we just saw. Now, if we start looking down here in the base of the glass, there's a little molten ball of shmoo here, and another little molten ball of shmoo here, another little molten ball of shmoo there, and another one that was there. They're now permanently etched into the glass. what exactly happened is I put the high voltage on this thing, stepped on the pedal, and it went bloop, bloop, and then a ball of plasma ran around the base of the inside of the tube. If we weren't looking at this tube when it happened, measuring it now, post flashover, and I'm using the term flashover loosely, there is no way to know that this tube has got an issue. It doesn't have a vacuum leak, and there is no high voltage short. Because I went back and I put high voltage on this tube, and I sat there and I just watched it. And I sat there and I stepped on the pedal over and over and over and over again, and it wouldn't do it again. But I was not willing to put any RF into it to see if the tube would actually rectify anything. But I can guarantee you this, whatever decided to turn itself into ionizing gas is either now all over the inside of this tube and all over the inside of all the filaments and the elements and the screens and everything in here. I wouldn't trust this tube for $1 million. It will eventually cause me more problems than what it is worth over its value. I throw that in the trash, go spend $300 and get another one, and it's well worth it over the time, right? Of running the risk of having that happen again while in transmission and possibly having that RF jump in and wipe out your radio or something. It's just not worth it. But I've never caught this phenomenon on film. I've had this happen not when the camera was running. So I want to break it out and let's go over it frame by frame. So the first little hunk of this that you're going to see is, let's see, 7 frames long, and it's the initial flashover. This next little section of frame is the second flashover. So I stepped on the pedal, and if you look at the plate amp meter, you'll see that I step on the pedal, the plate amp meter comes up, and then I come off the pedal, bloop, and you'll see the zero signal goes and drops off, and as it's dropping off, the ball of plasma is now it's running. The plasma is self-sustaining at this point. That's inside the tube. So there's no more input energy with the tube being out of cutoff. It goes back into cutoff, and you'll see that the plate amp gauge drops down to nothing. But then it does a weird thing. This last little bit's the weird thing. If we look at the plate amp gauge, we'll see that it wiggles. It's sitting there and it's doing its own show. It's starting to pull current and it's doing crap as there's a ball, like a ring, like the tokamak, fusion reactor. There's a ball of plasma that starts about here in the tube and then runs all the way around the base of the tube, and it's chasing itself. And it makes 2 complete spins around the tube, and then it dies out. But like I said, after it's said and done, there's nothing wrong with that tube that we can tell from the outside without running it inside of an amplifier. Let's look at the plasma chase its tail around the bottom side of the tube. Switch that to Vox. Whoa. Whoa. Did you guys see that? Now look at this tube, you guys. Look at how smoked out the inside of that tube got. Woo. Okay. Okay, let me let the high voltage bleed down, and I think we're going to have to go find a new set of tubes. Damn. So here's the $6 million question. Let's turn this to manual and see if we can get this to focus in a little bit better. Jesus. Okay. This is our bad girl. So what happens when I put this one in transmit? Is it going to arc over too? Let's plug our ears and step back. Negative. Okay, we got good zero signal, so that back tube is definitely good. All right, well, the only thing this thing's good for, I guess, is generating plasma now. Well, let's go find ourselves another 3500Z. I need to go digging. So here we are the next day, and half the shop torn up. This is that tube that just blew the blue arc and plasma all around the bottom, and I've never seen the plasma ride the bottom of the tube before. That was something else. So I have to establish a baseline to which we can measure the output power of this amp. Either that or my peak battery is starting to go low. I don't know. So what we did is we went over here and we grabbed the bench 3500Zs. These are my sloppy whores. We know they're at full output. And I mean sloppy because they get put in everything. We dug around and I found a brand new old stock 3500Z tube that I've had here forever. This was given to me by a local guy. And it was buried. I mean, like, buried. So, if you could see the room behind me, it is tore up from the floor up. But, I mean, this is what I get when I put the one brand new inbox tube I still had left laying around here. Buried at the bottom of the universe. In the back of the shelf. Must have really not wanted to have that one fall on the floor. So anyhow, let's go over here. Anytime, camera. Thank you. So we're on the 10 meter band. And I'm using my striker because it puts a little bit more drive into everything here. This is where we're at on the faceplate, just so you guys know where we're at for tuning. And we're going to put this many watts in it. Hello, 1, 2, which works out to be about 100 plus. Here. Dance around a camera. Dance around all the stuff I got stacked here. Go down to 1x. Make it so everybody understands what they're looking at. That's a 1,000 watt slug and peak, okay? Hello. My logic with using the striker, and we're on 12 volts by the way on the bench. My logic with using the striker is if I blow up my striker, it is much easier to repair than my ICOM 7300, right? So with 100 watts worth of drive, now that meter is in peak, so the 50, sorry guys, I'm not reaching around this amp to point at that for you guys. If you don't know how to read this meter already, but 2x with 1,000 plus videos of me explaining it. Hello, 1, 2. See, I'm 14 to 1,500 watts out of this thing. More than plenty. Hello. Hello. About 14 and some change. So, dance around. I gotta move this shit in here. This is getting ridiculous. That's 1,000 watts. 12, 14, 16, 18, 2,000. So we're getting 1,400 pretty steady out of it. Let's turn on the bench power supply. We're going to run our voltage up on our radio, so it'll put out about 125 watts, and we'll see if we get any more poop out of it, which I'm sure we will. 1, 2, 1, 2. From that point of view, it's putting out 1,600. From my point of view, it's a little over. It's almost 1,700 watts. Now, that's not all that important. What is important is we know that at 90 or 100 watts drive, it's going to get 12 or 1,400 max, and with 125 watts worth of drive, we're going to get 1,600 watts out of it. So, and that's with a set of tubes that we know are good. Let's let everything cool down. Got to let the high voltage bleed off, and we'll switch back over to these iMacs. They're going to come with this amp, and we'll see what we get for performance. It's like deja vu, but it's not. So now we've got our iMacs in here, and let's go see what we do. Nothing's changed. Everything's the same units of measure, same amount of drive. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, audio, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, to keep it legit and fair, hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Hello. Got down. Same amount of power. Same everything. Same and same and same. We have got ourselves a good set of tubes. This makes me excited. So, I went back and looked, and my other, the other one of these I did, the exact same relay setup in it, and everything in the back here was exactly the same. So, the statement that I made previously about it being RTTY and blah blah, whatever, yeah, disregard that. This is the way it is stock. Let's go to sideband, 160 meters. Hello. 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello. Makes 1,000 watts on 160 meters. Moving on. We're on 80. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're on the ICOM 7300. Our output power is at full. And it ain't coming off that mark, so we're not going to scan back up and keep doing this. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. We're looking at our input shores over here. Or come back down over here. 1,000 watt scale and 2x. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. There's our 1400, no problem. It's going up to 20. Oh, before I run away, to give you an idea where the knobs need to be. So that's for 80 meters. And we're going to go on up to 40. I know I just said 20, but we're going to go to 40. Let's go back over and look at the watt meter. Oh, that's my wife calling me on the phone. Hold on. So that's where we're at for tuning. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's a happy little clam. Okay, now, 14 megahertz. Let's go there and play. On AM. Somewhere in there. Hello. Breathe. Hello. Okay, that's where we're at there. This is where we're at for tuning. Moving on up to the east side. That deluxe apartment in the sky. Okay. So, once again, couple this up. This thing's twitchy. It's amazing to me the difference between this one and the last one I worked on just about 3 months ago. Just in its internal structure. Anyhow. Hello. Hello. 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's all she's going to give us. So, pretty close to legal limit with 80 watt radio drive. This is what it is. When we go to the aux position, 120 watts, we get 1800 out of it. So, 1600, 1700 out of it. This thing is a good old 100% way to go. There's a little scratch in the lens over here that I want to document. There's a little scratch here and a little scratch there and a little scratch there, but nothing that is like, oh my god, it makes it so ugly. Should be able to see these clearly in this here. Now, which I'm sure somebody could come along with a Sharpie, pull the lens off and very carefully put a Sharpie mark over that and then put the lens back on. You'd never even know it was there, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to leave it just the way it sits. The last one I got rid of, it had... This wheel was black. These wheels were black with white indexing marks. This one is white with black indexing marks, which I think is cool. I think it's cool. This thing in its current condition is not perfect, but it is very close. And the reason I say it's not perfect is because of this material here. Before we go and put our fingers all over this thing. This little discolorization, and this is just simply from moisture buildup on this particular kind of erudite coating they've got on the metal. There's nothing we can do about it. It doesn't affect its performance in any way, but the front side that everybody's going to be looking at, it's pretty. The cabinet has no dents, no dings, no scratches. It's rust free. It's basically clean. The last one I had here was in... That thing looked like it rolled right off the shop floor. That's why we were able to ask so much money for it. But this one here, honestly, I think a fair price for this is around $2,000 plus the ride. This will come to you in 2 pieces. I have a brand new shipping company that I just used for the last 3 or 4 heavy things that went out of here, and I have had no problems with them. It was a shame that I had to part company with the other company, but I think I found somebody a little bit better. This will come in a crate with the 2-inch gray commercial packing foam all the way around it. The faceplate will have an expansion foam bladder. It looks just like this. This is what these guys use. You pop the bladder, you put it in a box, you hold it against the face, and everything gets supported on it so nothing can get damaged. And yeah, that's that. I'm going to put this thing back together and let it cool off. I'm going to pull the tubes out of it and set them aside. They will come to you in 2 separate flat rate boxes with a bunch of, once again, foam bladder expansions all around it. That's it. So you guys know the drill. First one of you guys that calls me or texts me gets it. $2,000 plus the ride. Gentlemen, my name is BBI. I'll see you. Bye.